Hello? Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to Quarter Hours. On this quarter hour, I thought I would talk a little about I thought I would talk a little bit about verbal expression, which that sort of tripping over my tongue really emphasized the need for. Just to go over the day, I managed to go outside for a run this afternoon, which was unexpected and very nice and appreciated by my body. It was quite cold though, it was about 4 below 0 Celsius, but it was nice. And it was was today the first day of school? Yes, it was. Today was the first day. It's been quite long, so I wasn't sure it was still the first day. But I thought of speaking about verbal expression last night already. I think as I was listening back to what I had recorded yesterday, because I realized that I am not very used to expressing myself verbally. I am very used to expressing myself through writing and through carefully measured and planned and considered words. And I do write sort of in a free flow stream of consciousness sort of way, and sometimes I can get into that sort of flow place where the words do come by themselves and I don't have to consider them, and they nevertheless come out somewhat well. But that's not the case verbally. As I was listening back to yesterday's recording, I heard how many times I say and particularly I heard how many times I would make that sort of noise, and I've never I don't think I do that usually. I think that's the strange sort of performance anxiety that I had, or that sort of settled over me after when I knew that I was recording. As if this is some sort of a performance, when it's really supposed to be serving me, it's supposed to be making me better. But I know that when I'm alone, I can be very verbally expressive. And that's perhaps why I say that there's performance anxiety, because although I am alone right now, I must not feel alone, and I must have felt like I have to perform, because I do have experience with verbal expression when I am alone. And by that I mean that, yes, I mean, it's not quite that I talk to myself, but it is, in a way. Since I was quite young, I've been able to... Oh, there was that noise again. Since I was quite young, I've been able to sort of sink into, or maybe project myself outwards into a situation. Usually it would be an interview situation that I've made up in my head, and then somebody would be interviewing me in my mind, and I would be answering questions. And I probably started this as an early teen, perhaps even slightly earlier. And I don't quite know how long these sort of immersions into make-believe would last. But if I had to estimate, I don't know how long it was, because part of the experience was losing, not complete contact with reality, of course, but losing a little bit of the pressure of reality, and being able to be just there and believe it to some degree. Acting for myself, acting within my own mind. And so I would estimate, I don't know, short ones, 10 minutes, it could be 20 minutes, it could be 30 minutes. I don't know if I've ever gone for longer than that, with just sort of pretending for myself. And I would sit there, and I wouldn't speak the other person's part, but I would think it in my mind, and then I would out loud answer those interview questions, or speak on whatever topic I wanted to speak on, and go into such incredibly detailed arguments and structured responses that I would often be brought to tears. I would often cry. I would often end those sort of fantasies by realizing that I'm crying, and then feeling slightly overwhelmed by how by how strange and I'm afraid to say fruitless, but fruitless it felt. How fruitless of an activity I was engaging in, seemingly, by speaking to no one other than myself, and bringing myself to these emotional points where I could be brought to tears. And now that I'm thinking about it, I must have really wanted to speak in front of people. I must have really wanted to express those things, because some of those topics that I would cover, particularly later on when I was at university and sitting alone in my room, speaking to my own mind for 30 minutes, the topics that I would cover then were quite serious. They weren't just about me, they weren't interviews, they weren't the sort of self-indulgent, exciting interview fantasies that I would have when I was 12 or 13 or 14 or 15 or 16. They soon became sort of as if I was giving a presentation on a topic that I thought was quite important and quite close to me, and had some sort of social or political or cultural weight to it. And I must have really wanted to speak, and that was the only way that I then knew how, that I still know how. Just talking to myself, and it meant enough to me that it would bring me to tears. And it was enough, I suppose. I'm always finding ways to get around doing what I really want to do. Speaking to myself was enough of a replacement for actual interaction with other people and speaking in front of other people, that it placated me to a certain degree, enough to get those tears out and get that passion out quietly and by myself in my room, and then to be able to go about my life for another period of time before I had to do that again. And that, these coping mechanisms that we learn, that I've learned, I'll speak for myself, these ways of dealing with want and need, and supplanting it with passable but really empty alternatives, is something that I don't think I've fully realized until perhaps right now. And also something that I don't want to engage in anymore. And this is the value of this. This is the value of this goal that I've set for myself, isn't it? I looked at the clock 10 minutes ago before I started recording, and I thought, oh, it's nearly midnight again, and is this the day that I stop doing this challenge? And I think, perhaps I will be having this thought every night, and perhaps I will be saying it every night. That it was a struggle, an internal struggle, to get myself to this point, and to tell myself that, oh, now I have to upload this audio, and I have to make the video for it, and I have to edit the picture. But if I wasn't doing that, I would be doing something much less productive, and I certainly wouldn't be falling into revelations about my past and current avoidant behavior. So yes, I not only avoid conflict and avoid... I more than I even avoid things that are unpleasant, more than I avoid what I don't want, I also avoid what I want. Like I said, I supplant it with inferior but passable alternatives. So human interaction and sociability and true expression of what I'm thinking and feeling is supplanted by writing and journaling and intensive introspection, which is not worthless. It is actually perhaps what I would choose if I had a simple choice between those two alternatives. But it is not a pure venture. It is a filler of a void, or a response to a void that cannot be filled with what it's meant to be filled with. And I'm just checking the time because I think we're coming up on 13 minutes, and for the first time in these quarter hours, I actually feel like I could go for much longer and explore something that would be worthwhile. So what am I... let's apply this to today. What am I most avoiding now? And how do I stop avoiding it? I am avoiding signing up for a certain... that noise. Avoiding signing up for something that I would like to sign up for, but I know I have to do it within the next few weeks because of an external deadline, not an internal, not one I've set for myself, but just an external deadline. So that's good. That's sort of okay. So external motivation, it works, right? But we want to get to a place of internal motivation. We want to get to a place of, I want to do this because I want to do this. Want is one thing, and recognizing a want is another thing. And then recognizing that want as something that should be acted on is another thing. And then the decision to act on that want is another thing. And this isn't what we're talking about today, but it certainly will be talked about in the future. But thank you for being here. And thank you for making me each day be less and less avoidant and more comfortable with verbal expression. This is good. This is something that I want to keep getting better at. Have a wonderful night, and I will talk to you tomorrow. Bye.